People tend to leave a lot of their dollars sitting in checking accounts or low-yield savings accounts, earning nothing. In reality, you're not only missing out, you're basically paying the bank to hold your money. Today, I'm breaking down 3 specialized ETFs that act as powerful cash alternatives. These are perfect for situations where you want your money liquid, safe, and earning a high yield. Whether you're waiting to buy a house, building an emergency fund, or keeping dry powder for the next market dip, we'll walk through what each ETF actually invests in, how it generates returns, and how safe it really is. We'll also cover the tax implications and when you should choose one over the others. We're ranking them from the highest potential return to the absolute safest option. I'm Professor Portfolio, and let's jump in. First one up is JAAA, the yield booster, Janus Henderson AAA, CLO ETF, a powerful cash alternative tool on the market. JAAA invests in AAA-rated tranches of CLOs, collateralized loan obligations. A CLO is a big bundle of senior secured loans made to large corporations. These are not junk loans, but loans backed by collateral and cash flow. CLOs are structured like a waterfall, separated into tranches, AAA at the top, then AA, A, BBB, BB, and equity at the bottom. JAAA buys only the AAA tranche, the safest layer. When companies repay their loans, the AAA investors get paid first. This structure protects investors from losses even if some loans inside the CLO underperform. AAA CLOs historically have near-zero default rates, survival through every major crisis, and strong payment priority. Right now, JAAA yields around 5.5%, the highest of the 3 options. The extra yield comes from what's called complexity premium, because CLOs are more complex instruments. AAA CLO tranches have had near-zero default rates, even during the 2008 financial crisis, the COVID crash in 2020, and the 2022 to 2023 rate shock. JAAA can experience slight price fluctuations during extreme market fear, but these moves have been small and temporary. Even during the fastest rate hike cycle in 40 years, JAAA remained extremely stable while yielding high income. JAAA's income is fully taxable at the federal level and fully taxable at the state level. So the yield you see is the yield you pay taxes on. Second one is FLOT, the corporate middle ground, iShares Floating Rate Bond ETF. This is one of the simplest, most stable corporate debt ETFs available. FLOT owns short maturity floating rate notes issued by investment-grade giants such as Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Apple, Wells Fargo, and Microsoft. These are loans made to highly respected institutions with strong balance sheets. The magic of FLOT is in the name, floating rate. Unlike a traditional bond with a fixed interest rate, floating rate bonds adjust their interest payments based on the current market rate. This means when the Fed raises rates, yields reset higher. When the Fed cuts, yields adjust lower, but the price stays almost perfectly flat. This is because duration, the sensitivity to interest rate changes, is very close to zero. FLOT currently yields around 4.9%, slightly lower than JAAA, but more straightforward. It's a cleaner, more traditional way to earn yield on corporate debt. FLOT is extremely stable, but not risk-free. In March 2020, during the COVID panic, FLOT temporarily dropped between 3% and 5%. This happened because investors feared short-term corporate credit, but it bounced back almost immediately once the Fed intervened. This demonstrates the difference between low risk and no risk. FLOT is also one of the largest and most liquid floating rate ETFs, meaning spreads stay tight and execution is efficient. FLOT income is fully taxable federally and fully taxable at the state level. No tax advantages here. Last one is SGOV, the tax-free fortress, iShares 0 to 3-month Treasury bond ETF. This is the safest cash alternative in the entire stock market. SGOV buys U.S. Treasury bills that mature in 90 days or less. These are obligations of the U.S. federal government, arguably the safest asset class in global finance. This ETF has ultra-short duration, virtually no interest rate risk, and one of the lowest volatility profiles of any ETF. You are lending money to the U.S. government for a few weeks at a time. Because these T-bills roll over frequently, the ETF's price remains almost completely stable. In practice, SGOV trades like a proxy for the 3-month Treasury rate, which the Fed directly influences. The price hovers near $100 per share, barely moving even when the broader bond market sees volatility. SGOV's current yield is about 4%. But here's the catch. Tax advantage. Massive in high-tax states. Interest on U.S. Treasuries is exempt from state income tax and local tax, but still taxed at the federal level. So if you live in California, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, or Minnesota, SGOV's effective after-tax yield might be higher than corporate debt funds yielding 4.9%. SGOV is as close to risk-free as a market-traded asset can get. It did not drop in 2020 during the 2022 bond crash, during regional banking issues in 2023, or during rate shock events. It saw zero credit issues because the U.S. government guarantees repayment. SGOV is essentially institutional-grade cash with a yield. To keep it simple, choose JAAA if you want the highest yield and are comfortable with tiny price movements, and you don't mind fully taxable distributions. Choose FLOT if you want corporate yields with floating rate protection and minimal interest rate sensitivity, with slightly more risk than Treasuries. Choose SGOV if you want the safest option, zero drama, stable price, and tax advantages, especially if you live in a high-tax state. So stop letting your cash sleep on the job. Your money should work even when you're waiting for your next big move. I'm Professor Portfolio, and remember, wealth takes time. Please drop and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.